Wow.
Richie Cannata, how are you?
Lonely.
Lonely? Why are you lonely?
Well, since March, I don't know if you've noticed, there's been a pandemic going on.
You don't get to see anybody? You all alone?
Monday Night Jam's been on hold for a little bit, and every single one of my concerts have been canceled or removed, or at least moved till next year, hopefully.
What about the studio? Is the studio busy?
Studio's busy. We've been doing really good with that. People have been basically caged up for so long. They're coming out now and they're looking to record. We're doing a lot of remote things. I'm doing a lot of sax solos for people. I'm doing a lot of mixing, so it's been pretty good.
Are you doing more remote mixing for people now that COVID has happened, or is it kind of starting to go back to normal?
More back to normal, but there's one or two clients that are out of state, and it's pretty hard to get into New York these days, with a 3-day quarantine and a quick test and whatever else goes with it to come back into the state. So they're sending us their files. We already recorded their files, and we're doing mixing that way.
Gotcha. I want to ask, so it's in Glen Cove, Long Island. That's where it is?
That's right.
How far out of the city is that?
It's really about a half hour, 40 minutes outside of the city. And then like on a Friday afternoon, it takes about 10 hours, so it really depends on the time of the day, but it's really only a 35, 40 minute trip,
How often do you come into the city nowadays?
Zero.
Zero.
I have not been in the city in 6 months.
Oh my Lord.
Scotty, I go to the city at least.
I lost you, Richie. There.
Hold on.
Now you're back.
I'm going to recharge me here. I got a low battery charge here.
You're okay. Take your thing. Take your time. Let me say while you're doing that, thank you to everyone who's watching. Carl Taylor, Ian Miller. I hope you guys are doing well. If you guys have any questions for Richie, post them in the comments, and I'll make sure I keep up with it. Unless I totally forget to do that, but I'll try not to.
I have been going into the city my whole life. I mean, I'm born in Brooklyn, and this is the longest period of time in my whole life that I have not been in Manhattan. So
Jeez.
It's crazy. I want to be very vigilant with COVID, and so I haven't traveled, haven't been outside of New York in 6 months.
And what is that like? Because I'm in Brooklyn, so I generally am going less to Manhattan than usual. I wasn't, except for school, because I go to college in the West Village. But now that it's online, I'm going significantly less. But it's not the same as it was before. But I'll say it's not terrible. It's not like there was a period of time where it was really scary. Like you'd go there and it was like out of a zombie apocalypse, basically. But it's nice to see now that I'm going back every once in a while to see that it's a little bit more normal. People are just kind of like, less touchy as before. Like I don't get on the subway and I'm not, packed in between people, which is a nice, I guess, an upside,
Yeah, I wouldn't even go on a subway at this point. I don't do it anyway, even in unfamiliar times. But right now, being that what is going on and what people think that they can or can't do, and with, the defunding of police departments and who knows who's watching over us and taking care of us, I'm staying in my car, bringing my accent to the city that way, doing my gigs and going home. But then again, I haven't been there at all, so it doesn't make a difference.
So you don't got to worry about it. You're chilling at the studio. Well, that's good. It gives you that extra incentive to just kind of buckle down and stay at the studio and get tons of work done. Not that I think you need the motivation to do it, but it gives you more of an excuse to say, like, what, I can just work all day. There's no like.
What, Scotty? I've owned this place for 38 years, and I lost you again. I don't know why. Let me check this out.
Yeah.
Battery. It's saying low battery, but we're plugged in. Let me just check at this end. Hold on.
You're good. Do your thing.
I got my. Hold on, buddy. Damn.
Carl, Ian, I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're staying safe.
But it's saying low battery, but we'll see what happens here. So, but I've been here 38 years, and motivation, I'm here 7 days a week, and I practice when I don't have gigs. So I just do it. I have, that's my life. I have my horn set up right here. I have my keyboard set up right here. Everything's always ready to go. So
What
sessions.
what do you have planned once all the venues open up? Are there any exciting musical projects that you're looking forward to when you can finally actually go out and play consistently?
Yeah, the Lords of 52nd Street, the original Billy Joel band, is looking to go back out. We might be doing a broadcast. Not sure how we're going to stream it or what we're going to do, but to look for us in December. We're going to try to do something, a full-on 90-minute show, and do a Veep. I don't know if you know what Veeps are, but you can,
I honestly have no clue.
it's a production service where they do your advertising. They find out your markets through algorithms, and they find out who's listening to your music, and they hit them up for a $10 ticket or a 15 or 20 or 30, depending upon what you want to do. And you can watch us for 90 minutes, and I'll do a little interaction. Yeah.
And that'll be streamed?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a new thing now. It's a new revenue stream that I don't think before the whole pandemic that people were really willing to pay for a video stream, including myself. But now that that's kind of becoming more normal, I find myself thinking like, I'd spend $15-20 to watch a show on, I put on my TV, get some popcorn and watch a live show.
Right.
I feel like I and many people are much more willing to do that nowadays.
Well, that's why we're doing it. I've done one show. I've done an outside car show. If you know what they are, people show up in their cars. We did one at Jones Beach. Hundreds of cars, but it was a horrible show for us. I mean, you're playing to bumpers and headlights,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how about a big beep for my drummer, beep beep, and it was horrible. I can't wait to go out there. You asked me what we are ready. We are in the starting blocks. We're waiting for the green light. My management, everybody's ready to go. The band's ready to go. We just got to get the okay from, I guess, whatever the health department are saying, that there's a vaccine or vaccination, and that we're safe to go,
Let's just hope for the absolute best, because I'm trying to I miss just going out, even if I wasn't going out just to play, but to just walk around the West Village and just go to random bars and say like, oh, I hear music from this bar, let's go check it out. And then especially the Bitter End Jams was like the summer of 2019. Every week I was at the Bitter End Jam, so that kind of defined the 3 to 4 months of that year for me.
Yeah.
So the fact that I got to experience that and then it was immediately ripped away the next year is kind of a shame. So I'm just itching to go back and just kind of enjoy normal life as it used to be.
All of us, we really, our city is probably one of the greatest cities in the world, and my jam is probably the most famous jam, and we need to have that music. We need people to come into Manhattan and know that they can come to a cool jam like mine. And for right now, I don't know what to say. It's like our industry, the legs have been cut out from underneath us,
Mm-hmm.
to include Broadway. That's not coming back until maybe May or June of next year. Nobody's helping us either.
Mm-hmm.
All they want from us is for us to do a benefit and a charity when it's time to do something like that. But nobody's really helping the musicians or the clubs or those people that are out of work. It's really, really sad. And I feel for all my brothers and sisters are not being able to work.
Are those charity events at least, picking at it and, making a dent inside of the monetary loss at all, you think?
I don't know. I don't know where, you can have a protest with 10,000 people on the Brooklyn Bridge, but you can't have 25 people in a bar,
It's just one of those things that it's like, especially right now, there's so much confusion as to what is okay and what's not, and who's the person to decide what is and isn't. And my opinion on the whole thing is kind of like, I honestly don't know enough. I want to see people to be able to do what they want. I want to see people play live music. I don't know what the right answer is. Right now, I'm just kind of hoping for the absolute best, honestly. I'm just kind of strapping in and hoping.
Isn't it sad what you just said? But that's the voice of all of us. We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know. We just don't know what the truth is. We don't know what really is this thing? How long is it going to last?
Mm-hmm.
A year from now, Scott, when you go get your flu shot, in that flu shot will be the coronavirus vaccine. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk, you'll tell your kids someday about what happened back in 2020. It'll be just another thing like polio, like the plague, like the swine flu. It'll be, we'll just move on.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen. It's already there. There's a vaccine ready for us to it's in experimental stages, but when is it going to happen? Who's going to decide? We don't know. We don't
No
know.
one knows. It's terrifying. And it's funny. A lot of things are going to change in the city. And I think it feels so personal to us that we're experiencing it right now. But especially like we all know, everyone knows that there are pandemics and there have been pandemics. But it almost seemed like until this happened, everyone was just kind of like, it's not going to happen. It's fine. Like this, it'll never happen, even though it's happened every 100 years. For the majority of time, it was like shocking that it could happen again to us, because we almost feel invincible. We feel like we're at the peak of history and that couldn't happen. But like, if you look back, they say that like in New York City apartments, especially ones built in early 1900s during the Spanish flu, they the heaters sometimes, this is just what I heard, that the heaters were not allowed to be controlled by the people in the place, the cast iron heaters, because what they would do is the Spanish flu was, you're less likely to get it if your windows were open and there was air movement. So what they would do is in the summer, they would pump the heat to all the apartments so people would open their windows and, hopefully not get the flu. And it's one of those things that, like, when I heard that, I think my roommate told me that about a year ago. It's like, oh, that's crazy. That'll never happen. That's not going to happen to us. We're not going to have to change how we do things. And now it's like, it's normal for me to just, wear a mask, which is something that I never, 9 months ago, never thought would be the case.
I carry one around every place I go.
Yeah. I wore, I have it up there. I made an Instagram video once. It was a parody of the show. You ever see the show Breaking Bad?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I remixed the theme song and I bought a jumpsuit and like a big gas mask. And I remember just, when the coronavirus first happened, I was walking around with that, just like, that's like, that's funny, wear a mask during a thing. And I thought it was just going to be like, you do it for a month, we're kind of joking around. It's going to be fine. The next thing you know, I'm outside and it feels weird if I don't have a mask on. It feels unnatural almost. It's because
I know.
So ingrained.
As soon as I go out, and whether I'm going to get gasoline or go to the bank or to Dunkin' Donuts, you just don't get out of the car with it. It's just a way of life, which is fine. I'm down for that. I definitely am. But I'm also down for the fact that there's got to be a solution and an end to this. There's got to be a justification that there will be a vaccine. There will be something that'll end this, and it's coming. It's there. It's already there. We just got to get the green light on it.
Let's hope for the absolute best, Richie. Yeah. That's all.
And we
regular citizens can do right now.
So we can get our industry going. Like I said, it's been cut from what our legs from beneath us, and there's nobody's helping us. Nobody's helping us.
Yeah, and I was walking around Broadway about maybe 2 months ago, and it was sad. Like the doors were open and they were just like dismantling. I saw all these like plywood and particle board coming out. And like 2x4s, they must have been dismantling sets from shows that just went under almost like immediately. There were shows that were supposed to be like these big hits, had like major actors in them, and now you go and they're taking the sets down, they're ripping off the posters. It's like, it really is like something out of a movie. I never thought I'd go down Broadway and see stuff just completely, dismantled.
Well, Billy wrote a song, Miami 2017, and the first lyric, I've seen the lights go out on Broadway. So here we are. When he wrote that and we recorded that song, it was like, what are you talking about? And here it is, living it.
It's shocking, to say the very least. It's shocking.
We stay healthy and get through this.
Let's hope for the absolute best. Yeah, just hope we can all just, stay as healthy as possible, because I'm fortunate that I haven't been directly exposed to it. I know one person or two people who have been directly exposed to it, which is, I'm very fortunate that I don't know a ton of people that have it and haven't had to, besides the regular amount of worry, I haven't had to be any, extra paranoid about it. And let's just hope that, more people can stay healthy for the future. But
that's right.
Richie, I want to ask, because we haven't, we've only talked a little bit, most of the time that we've talked is, it's been in loud bars and, there's blasted music and people jamming. But I want to go back and ask some early questions about you. So where are you from originally?
Born in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm. What part?
Immigrants. My parents. I'm third generation Italian. My grandparents are from Italy. Hardworking people that came and built America, built the Brooklyn Bridge. Built the roads, built the buildings. My dad, very very hardworking guy, and we were brought up in Brooklyn. And then from Brooklyn, we moved to Long Island.
Mm.
And I was really raised on Long Island, and Brooklyn is actually on Long Island. So
Yeah, that was something that I didn't know until over the summer. I was visiting a mutual friend of ours, Augie Bello, and we were looking at the news, and I was like, how the hell did I never know this? That Brooklyn is technically part of Long Island. But what part did you move to of Long Island, and what year was
I
it?
moved to my parents moved to the center part of Long Island, Garden City South, which is probably right in the smack middle of it. And so we shared the South Shore and the North Shore. And eventually I moved back into the city. Then I moved to Queens. Then I moved to Hempstead, then to
Hmm.
Seacliff, and now I'm settling in Glen Cove.
You've been all over the place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
small moves. They're small moves. We're talking like half hour apart.
Mhm.
I didn't have to pack a moving van. Plus the fact all I had was my horn with me. And a couple of clean T-shirts. That was the
Well,
moves back then.
what year was it that you started playing sax?
I played. I was. I'm gonna give you one more before that. I was four
Oh, you're
years
good.
old when I first started playing keyboards.
Hmm.
Okay, I was listening to music on TV, and I was hearing music in my head and trying to figure it out. So my parents bought a piano, and I started playing keyboards about 4 or 5. Clarinet came first around 6, kindergarten, 7. Playing clarinet, and then by 8 years old, I was playing a tenor. I never looked back. After they put a tenor in my hand, I never looked back.
So do you still play clarinet at all?
I do, but um, uh, if somebody forced me, I would get my clarinet out. But when I get a call to do stuff like that, I do it on soprano. If
Gotcha.
it's pop music and they want something similar sounding to that, I do it on soprano.
So who were your early influences when you first started playing tenor?
Um, my early influences were my dad, who influenced me with like Stan Getz.
Hmm.
I love Stan Getz. I love Plaz Johnson, who was the Pink Panthers saxophone player back then for um, some really big records. John Coltrane.
Hmm.
I listened to Charlie Parker, but he was alto, and I had more ears for tenor, so I went with the tenor guys. Any alto influences were Paul Desmond with Dave Brubeck,
Hmm.
Gerald Albright, who's a great alto player. Mike Brecker and I were friends as much as we could be friends, because we were. He was a little bit older than I was, and but I think Mike Brecker was one of the greatest tenor players of all time in my generation.
He's
Our
also
generation.
he's really one of the most influential because I notice a lot of saxophone players cite him as being such an inspiration.
Amazing. He could play. He played with Paul Simon, and then he played in the Brecker Brothers.
Hmm.
So Skunk Funk and Paul Simon tracks. He could do both.
Yeah. So at what point did you start really working professionally as a musician? Did you start usually doing live stuff, or did you go right into doing studio work?
A little of both. The live stuff was probably when we talk about being professional, we got to be cautious of what that term means. I started getting paid to do stuff probably around 13 years old.
Hmm.
I started to get gigs, and my mom would drive me to gigs. From proms and weddings and nightclubs and stuff. I was doing that. Then studio work started to come,
Hmm.
and back then you had to play in time and play in tune. There was no digital fixing, so you actually had to be pretty good to get into a studio.
Gotcha. What was it? How old were you when you first were really starting to go like, oh man, I can really pay my bills just off of this?
I'd say about 17,
17. Who
18. Yeah.
who were some of the first
Here
people?
in high school, I started to make some money.
Gotcha. Who were some of the first people that you were working with in the studio?
Wow. First people. I played on a lot of horn section stuff for
Hmm.
people. Uh, and it varied. It depends if it was a Latin gig or if it was a pop gig or a jazz gig. You know, I there was so many. I'm trying to remember artist wise. The biggest was of course Billy Joel.
Hmm.
That's when I really turned it around for saxophone players and started to help them
Hmm.
being part of such great records that Billy made. But and then the rest just came from there. From Billy was just a slew of people from Bernie Williams, and then I from special effects and the Beach Boys and Rita Coolidge and Styx and just the band started to just hire me to play on their records.
Mm-hmm. Was Brian Wilson touring with the Beach Boys because you still tour them, correct?
Yeah, he actually came out. Interesting question. He came on the road. He had a keyboard set up next to me and rarely got on stage.
Mm-hmm.
We became friends. He never knew my name. He called me sax player. And I played on his Smile record. I went to Chicago and actually played on his solo records.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
He was brilliant. He was great. And I played with the Beach Boys when it was the Beach Boys. It was, Carl Wilson, Al Jardine, Mike Love, Bruce Johnston, Brian Wilson,
Mm-hmm.
And what we did was how I got that gig is because we opened up for them when Dennis Wilson was alive, and Billy Joel was the opening act for the Beach Boys.
Oh, and so you were playing with Billy, and then that's how that parlayed into the job with the Beach Boys.
Carl Wilson loved us, and Carl Wilson always wanted me to play in the Beach Boys, and I didn't want to. And then finally, when I left Billy, he came to my studio here in Glen Cove, and he was doing a session with Max Weinberg. I don't know if you know who he is, a drummer with Bruce Springsteen, and Jimmy Vivino, who's musical director for Conan O'Brien. They came here, and I played with them, and Carl gave me a cassette, and he said, learn these songs and meet us at the New York State Fair next weekend. I go, what?
Syracuse, New York?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, that's I live about 45 minutes from Syracuse.
My first gig with the Beach Boys was there, the New York State Fair.
The New York State Fair is unbelievable for the amount of acts that they get. And I mean, they didn't have it this year, but when I was a kid, it was like the top acts in the country were coming to, freaking Syracuse, New York. So
I knew this, okay? And he says, like on a Tuesday, he gives me a cassette and goes, learn these songs. There'll be a car picking you up Friday, and we'll meet you at the New York State Fair. And I go, what? And I never had a rehearsal and jumped on stage with the Beach Boys, and then ended up playing with them for about 20 years.
And so wait, what year was that you played with them at the State Fair?
I want to say the 90s, maybe a little bit before that in the 80s.
So when you were doing it, do you remember if it was, because the State Fair was big for having, they had a giant racetrack,
that's where
portable with the grandstand.
We played the racetrack. The grandstand was filled with people. We did like 2 shows. We did 4 shows in 2 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they that's gone now. Grandstand's gone.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they do. I think they did maybe 3-4 years ago. I might be totally off. I'm trying to think if it was. Yeah, it was probably about 4 years ago. They did this whole thing where they basically put a bunch of money into the State Fair, and they moved. They have this amphitheater that's now on. I don't know what lake it is. I can't remember, but it's out on the lake. And I haven't seen it in person, but apparently it's beautiful. And I think it was like Bruce Springsteen and Ringo Starr were like the first month of acts. So they were really like pushing it, getting big people there. But it's, as much as people seem to like it, I'm sad because that grandstand had such a vibe because it was just, it was so massive.
And it was massive. And then we would set up on the, there was a racetrack. We didn't set up there. We set up on like the center part.
Yeah, they would always take the grandstand was permanent, and then they'd have the racetrack in the middle, which is where they'd put sometimes I think it was they'd either put padding to separate the audience, or they'd put floor seats, and then in the middle they'd set up that stage.
It was great,
unbelievable.
And my first gig.
You
were there. Were you born yet?
We said 1980 something. I still had 18 years.
Oh my God. Okay.
But there is a chance. It's possible that maybe one of my parents were there. I don't know, because I know my dad was big into going to whenever there was big acts, because my dad was in this band called Self-Induced Vomit, and they were, yeah, I know they go by SIV, and they were basically like pop punk or like funk punk, sort of like Chili Peppers kind of stuff. And so my dad was always he always has all these stories about going around to the clubs and how he'd see these amazing groups in upstate New York, which just they don't bring people into small towns like that, it seems like, anymore. And it's a shame because we had, Woodstock 99, the last one that they did in the States, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. That was done in Rome, New York. And, I hear stories about my house is up on a hill 35 minutes from Rome, New York. And my dad says you could go, if you went outside, you could just hear bass coming from Woodstock.
Wow,
unbelievable. And it's just, I wish I wish I was around to see that. I'm not the type of person who's like I wish I was born in this generation type people, but I'm also, it's a shame that I didn't get to experience that stuff, because by the time I was older, they were, they're tearing down the grandstand and they're having less acts, and, Woodstock had the whole riot. So then that was gone. And, but man, back in the heyday must have been absolutely incredible.
It was fun. A lot of good, like I said, it was all about music, not about technology.
Yeah. And so when was it? You said you got the Beach Boys from Billy Joel, but going back, when did you get hooked up with Billy Joel and how did that happen?
I got hooked up with Billy. I was doing sessions, and I was doing a session for Sesame Street, and I was doing an overdub, a tenor and soprano thing. And the day before, Doug Stegmeyer, the bass player, and Liberty DeVito, the drummer, had done the basic track at NYIT Studios here in Long Island. And the engineer was Doug Stegmeyer's brother. And he said, wow, my brother just joined Billy Joel, and they're looking for a sax player that plays keyboards. Do you play keyboards? And I said, I do. But I didn't really know Billy other than the fact he had Piano Man out. And I'm going to say, where am I going to fit into Piano Man? Well, anyway, I did the session. He called his brother. They came to see me play at a bar gig I was doing. And Billy asked me to join the band. Next thing I knew, I was playing New York State of Mind.
And how long were you playing with him for that first stint? Because you were with him for a while, and then there was a pause, and then you came back, right?
Yeah, I started with him in 1975. We did the Turnstiles record, and about, 100 million records later, I left. It was probably the early 80s I left. Then I came back in 2006. I came back for the Millennium Show. I played the Millennium Show at the Garden. Then I came back in about 2006.
Was the Millennium Show, excuse me, because I'm not sure, is that related to the 12 shows, or is that a separate event?
No, that was something. That was 12 shows at Madison Square Garden. That was something different.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
That's an unbelievable thing, because I remember there's another stadium, I can't remember the name, in Albany, that the record, because I think Billy still holds the record for most sold out shows at MSG. And in Albany, like the week before or something crazy like that, he sold 7 in a row there. The thing I wanted to ask is, like, what is that like compared to just selling out shows in different parts of the country? Is the audience that much different when you're playing the same stadium every single night? Is it more challenging than traveling? What was that experience like in compared to just doing a regular set of 12 shows, even if they're sold out just in different venues?
Something, you're a musician, this. Every gig is the same. You come to play with me at the Jam, you want to play the best because you're as good as the last time you played, right? It doesn't make a difference. Our audiences, Billy's audiences, are huge. They love us. We love them. So you get...
I lost you.
Yeah, I know. That's a call coming in. I don't want to disconnect you. It'll stop and hold on. You can hear me though, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So we'll get the video back in a second.
You're okay.
The thing that's most important is that you get on stage regardless. Here it comes back. You get on stage regardless where it is or how many shows you're doing that show. You're in that moment. You give back. The show is over. Whether or not you get into the car and go to the airport and go to another gig, or you go back to the hotel and show up again at the same night, it's all the same. They clear the house and there's different people. And every gig is uniquely as important as the last one, and you're as good as the last time you played. So
did you feel when you were playing, like, were there any shows where you were just like, you felt like you were especially on fire, whether it be the first one or the last one, because you're leaving the city then?
Oh yeah. You know that feeling. You do a set, when you get to this level, you can't go, let's see, I don't want to get out of screen. You can't go beneath that, right? You've got to always keep it there. If you're somewhere here, then you shouldn't be there. So you're always going to be burning it. It's always going to be good. It better be, because that's just what it is. That's how you got there, because you are that level. But there are some shows it's just over the top.
Was it the exact same show every night, or were there any variations in between?
No, we had our set list with the Lords of 52nd Street. The hardest thing for me, Scotty, is picking 22 songs, because we have hundreds.
So in those 12 shows, it would vary from night to night.
Yeah, Billy would decide on what he wanted to do. Yeah.
Wow. What would you say, like, in terms of, because you're credited on 6 Billy Joel albums, Out of those albums, and this is not including the greatest hits albums, because that's same music. But what would you say out of those 6 records was the most musically challenging to record? I have here, it's Turnstiles, The Stranger, 52nd Street, Glass Houses, Songs in the Attic, and River of Dreams.
They first of all, there was it's and I want to be cautious how to say this. It was never a challenge. We loved what we did. Okay, we were a bunch of guys from Long Island that had a lot of fun. The most interesting thing for me was probably the first one, and if there was any challenge at all, is because listen to this. We cut the basic tracks. Billy cut the basic tracks on 16 track. Big time. We went up to 24 track.
Oh, geez.
Okay. And then and is that you?
That is, there's a church right across the street.
Okay.
And so every hour from 9 a.m. to like 8 p.m. they do a thing. It's usually not that annoying, but when I'm recording live, it's a pain in the butt. You gonna give us a church service?
Okay, there you go. So that's my, I think it was a C, sounded like a C, or a G, or both. So
Hey, you got the whole harmonic scale.
right. So what had happened was that I joined them. Billy had seen me play, so I went to Ultrasonic Studios to see them do this cutting of Angry Young Man in a 16-track situation. Then he played me the basic track to New York State of Mind and said, "Would you like to play in this?" I went, "Yes, I would." But I didn't play it there. We then went to Caribou Ranch out in Nederland, Colorado, which Jimmy Guercio was managing the Beach Boys in Chicago and Elton. And so we joined all them, and Billy and I did our parts there. So if there was a challenge, here it was, taking all these guys out of New York, putting them in Colorado, in the mountains, at this Caribou Ranch, where the air was thin. We needed oxygen to breathe. So if there was a challenge, that might have been that was the challenge there. And that's where I played New York State of Mind.
Gotcha. And when you're recording songs like that, are you putting any thought into saying like, okay, I need to play this differently than I would live? Is there a studio versus live mentality that you have? Or are you just playing just how it feels at that time?
No, it's pretty much the same. And now keep in mind, and we had this talk the other day about studio and live. What recording was back in the day was actually a good live performance. So that'll go away in a second.
Do you need me to mute you so you can take it?
I'm on a Zoom call. You okay? Okay. So live performance was what you captured in the studio, because you only had 23 tracks. 24 was a SMPTE code. So you only had 24 tracks to do this, right? So you needed to be able to play live to capture this. So was it really different? I didn't know too much difference between live and studio. I channeled people like Michael Brecker when I was thinking about playing Scenes from an Italian Restaurant. I was thinking about how he would approach it, and all my solos are basically one take.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's interesting like that, because a lot of the time, especially nowadays, and I think again, I am not the type of person to be like, I don't, I want to be born in a different generation, listening to this type of music. I love all types of music. And so there's upsides to having control and there's downsides. And it seems a lot of the time, especially because I'm a perfectionist. So I like to go through and tweak everything and get it till I find it's perfect. But lately, especially now that I've been doing live podcasts where whatever happens, it's done. It's kind of gotten me back into like that mindset of before I had all this control, even though that was, most of my life, I had digital music to work with. There's something about the mindset of saying, this is it. This is what people are going to hear or see, and that's it. And there's a magic to that sometimes. Not sometimes. All the time.
I just was in my car and I went to a classic vinyl Sirius station. I just needed to go back to my roots. And I was
Sirius 26?
Yes. And I was listening to David Bowie yesterday. There are more imperfections on that on the record, Major Tom, whatever the name of that one, Fantasy, whatever it's called, right? Freaking awesome.
Yeah.
All the imperfections. Music is not meant to be perfect. It's meant to be from your soul. It's meant to be from God. It's you get your antennas right, and imperfection is what it is. It's a form of art. You know, you shouldn't be able to put it on a grig and move the kick drum. That's the way Bernard Purdy played the kick drum. You know, that's the way he laid back playing that kick drum. It shouldn't be on the grid, you know? And digital music and digital set of tools is ruining what really music is. Music should be like the jam on Monday nights. That's why I've been doing it for 25 years. Get up there and play and have a good time, you know? If the song starts at a tempo and ends at a different tempo, maybe it was meant to be that way. You know? Listen to that station. Listen to how, man, bands just got together in a room and came up with licks and they played and it was just great. You know, now it's put into this box and you correct it.
Yeah, there's a lot of music that I like that's like that, but I've noticed a lot of especially the music I liked when I was younger. I never noticed it back then, but now that I go back and I listen to like some of my favorite records would be like Black Sabbath's first record, which was just self-titled. Hymn of the Seventh Galaxy by Return to Forever. And when I was in high school and I started getting into the band Snarky Puppy, I actually just interviewed one of their
I love Snarky Puppy.
Yeah, I just interviewed their trumpet player Justin about 2 weeks ago, which is, I was able to interview him when I was in high school, but to be able to talk to him, because I looked up to them so much. But the records I loved from them are all the ones they're recorded. The Black Sabbath album was recorded in 6 hours. They packed up their stuff and they went and played a show. Hymn of the Seventh Galaxy, if you listen to it, is riddled with mistakes. The Snarky Puppy album, they're famous for playing, their albums are all live with an audience. So you hear mistakes, but it really is
riddled with art, bro.
Yeah.
With art. Listen to Coltrane, they had 157 set in the room in a club somewhere or a 47 and they just played, I remember when Coltrane first played that first high G harmonic, we said, oh, that's not a mistake. No, he just went for a high note, It's just what it is. We can't dig as deep as what, because technology lets you. You got to let it go. You got to let it go.
Yeah, I think I think in my opinion, just from what I've heard nowadays, I think the best music made nowadays is using the positive aspects of digital music, because there are so many being able to create. You can create sounds that in an amount of time and with ease that you couldn't before. And I think the best kind of music right now is the music that takes that aspect and gets it to where it sounds great, but doesn't lose that initial live feeling of it. And you can do it programming. It's just you have to put effort into it instead of it just being like, putting math into a machine. And of course, there's an art to that too. But the kind of stuff that I tend to like is the stuff that takes the positive aspects of the live performance and the technology that we have right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to define these days what is, but I'm selling out shows that I did music 42 years ago.
Yeah.
So I want to see what Cardi B is going to be doing in 42 years.
I guess, you know what? I guess we'll see. We'll find out.
Yeah. Well, you will. I won't.
Well, hey, if I don't know how bad this pandemic is going to get. I don't know if any of us are going to. But here we have a comment from our boy Augie Bello.
Oh, says, my boy Augie, call me Augie.
Augie, call Richie. What the hell's wrong with you? It's like when like an Italian mother, like call your mother. Richie, he says, Richie is one of my biggest influences. Everyone take notes. That's Augie's comment.
Oh, Augie's the best, man. I love you, Augie.
There's a 30-second delay, so I'm assuming he'll say he loves you too, but we'll just have to wait for that. So here's something that I'm so curious about, because right before college and then all through college, I've really gotten into producing music and mixing music. And so you leave Billy Joel in 1981, am I correct about that?
Around there, yeah, right.
Okay, and then mid 80s is when you start Cove City in Glen Cove.
Right.
And I was going through your client list, and the names on there are freaking incredible. This is Holy by Justin Bieber, which phenomenal song. Was that tracked at the studio or is that mixed there?
Piano tracked at the studio. John Bellion and Michael Pollack wrote it and sang it here. We tracked it here. Justin heard it, and they did whatever they needed to do to get Justin on the record, and we're really proud of it. Yeah.
Yeah, they killed it. And did you see them do it on SNL? I think about three
Yeah, it
weeks
was
ago. Have you seen
great.
that?
Yeah, I saw
Phenomenal.
it. Great.
I've recently gotten huge into SNL. It was something I always liked in my childhood, but the last couple of weeks, especially now, it's nice to look forward to something at the end of the week. It's something that's, that's spontaneous and live. And so they've been doing some great performances. They had Jack White, Justin Bieber. Now the Foo Fighters are coming on this week.
Right.
It's gonna be. I mean, it's phenomenal. But here, I'm gonna go off on a tangent. But like just some of these names, the Dreamgirls soundtrack, Instinct's Christmas album, which is something my mother played freaking all the time. Let's Talk About Love, Celine Dion, and the Private Part soundtrack. I need to ask about that. So you recorded the Private Part soundtrack because that's the one that stood out to me because I was like all through high school, it's like a Howard Stern maniac.
Howard Stern had two bands, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had Pig Vomit too.
Oh, because it was named after the boss.
Yeah.
Wait, was that so? That I didn't know he started a band named after him. That's funny.
Yeah, Howard Stern is from Long Island. He's an old friend of ours.
Roosevelt, right?
Jackie Martling is from Bayville, one town over. So we're the big fish in the small pond here. But now we're actually worldwide. So there's been a lot of great stuff that's come out of here because of that, and because the facility is awesome too. Our client list goes large. It really does. I was just with the Dream Theater guys yesterday. Astonishing was written here. I actually wrote the foreword to their book, to the Astonishing as well.
I didn't know that.
We've done a bunch of records with them. Celine, the Christmas record was great. I played on that record, which is dusted off every year, and it's really amazing. J-Lo's stuff was amazing here. Howard Stern was just really great, by the way. Howard Stern is awesome. I'm doing a live, interview setting thing. He's the origin of that kind of thing. He was, he kind of, in my opinion, defined the long-term interview, especially with live things. And then people like Joe Rogan after him. But Howard Stern was, he's the guy. He is, Like when I was a little kid, my dad used to listen to Howard all the time, and my mother used to never let me. But every once in a while, if it was something that wasn't too explicit, my dad and I would listen to it in the car. And man, that was like just such a defining factor of my life to hear someone go on and just say stuff that you were just like what the hell is going on? He's just saying what he's thinking. Who does that? No one, no, it was, and now especially with the internet, that's so normal. But back then, it's not at all. Right, it was on K-Rock too, so there was censorship. So there was a little bit of a danger in what he was doing. Now on Sirius, I don't even listen to him anymore because it's Sirius. It was dangerous when it was on K-Rock. I liked it.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I only ever listened to him live on Sirius, but some of my favorite recordings are from like late 90s, early 2000s. And he had that original K-Rock studio, which was, this big. And then they moved into a nicer one, which is more similar to the Sirius studio. But that was great. He would say stuff and it was kind of like, oh, is he going to get taken off the air? Like you never knew. And that's fun. And even watching it in retrospect is fun. But here, I want to ask about, so you founded the studio in the mid 80s, and your main role, you said you've performed on some of the records, but in general, on a record that you're not playing on, how hands-on are you with the clients? And besides, being the founder, what is your main role on a day-to-day basis?
Well, it depends what I get hired to do. And actually, in a short period of time, I got to go back downstairs because I told you who was here today, right? And I got to go downstairs. Mm-hmm. But I am here as, first of all, as a saxophone player. If I get called to do any saxophone work, I'm here to do that. But I built this place with a partner, and I'm here every day. I do produce records. Mm-hmm. I listen to just about everything that's here, and I'll give a thumbs up. I'll make sure that my clients are happy. I operate it more as a musician than I do as a studio owner. So it's more important for me to make sure the guitar track is right, or, you did cut a great bass part or drum or a basic track, rather than worrying to try to make another dollar to book another hour of studio time.
Gotcha. So you're really about just making it as efficient as possible. So you're not.
Oh yeah, it's got to be good. I've never advertised. Our clients are our advertisements, is what happens at the very end of the day.
And when you first started, were you getting big name artists, or is it like a slope into that?
Well, we did right in the beginning. Our first artist was Taylor Dane. I don't know if you remember her, but
I
she was a
don't.
dance big hit called "Tell It to My Heart." Clive Davis, you remember him?
Yeah, of course.
Clive Davis brought her in here. So in the first couple of months of our opening, we had a hit record with her,
Hmm.
and
Uh,
then it came very shortly after.
who would you say, you know, out of all the people that have come into the studio, that you were just like blown away by how hard of a worker they were?
Well, Dream Theater are the most hardest workers, but blown away, Ray Charles.
Ray Charles.
Yeah,
Wow. That's
yeah,
no, that's a historic
blown
name,
away,
especially.
Charles. I was just like, oh my God, Ray Charles is playing my piano and singing in my studio.
Still got that piano?
That was a big one for me. It really was.
Yeah. Here, I want to make sure I get to all my questions. I don't want to keep you too late because I know you got a bunch of stuff to do. So I'm just
I'm
gonna.
going in a little bit. So get your. What do you got for me?
Yeah, I just got a couple things that I want to make sure we get to. So, I met you through the Bitter End Monday Night Jams. I can't remember. My memory is terrible. If I asked you when you started doing the Bitter End Jam, did I ask that already? When they first started?
Oh, you did. I've been doing the jam for about 25 years. The Bitter End for 11 years in the same club.
Hmm. What
11
was
years.
it? What was it before the Bitter End? Because it was a different venue before, right?
It's out at the China Club, uh, and then it went to La Barbat, then it went to Triad, and then it went to the Cutting Room,
Hmm.
and then it went to the Bitter End.
Gotcha. I think the Bitter End's a really good venue for it. I like it that they really crank the shit out of the speakers, which is something
Yeah,
that I enjoy because then sometimes you go to jam sessions and it feels like you're in someone's living room instead of it actually being a show. But I like when
yeah,
I go and I sit down at the kick drum of the drum set at the Bitter End and it's like boom. I
I
love
know.
that shit. It's the best. I had some of them. I said at the beginning, but some of my best nights of 2019 were there. Have there been any particular nights at the jam that just like stick out in your mind as being something that's extra memorable?
At the Bitter End,
Yeah.
John Stamos is a good friend of mine. He came down with the Jonas Brothers. That was fun.
Oh, geez, that's killing.
Yeah,
That's
that was
awesome.
that was fun. Andrew Watt. I don't know if you know who Watt is.
I was there for one of them, the one where he came up because Diplo was there
Oh
sitting
yeah,
next to Augie
it was
Bello and I, and we were blown
all those
away.
girls what he brought too. They were
The
disgusting.
Victoria's Secret models.
Yeah, they were. It was crazy. That was a great night.
Yeah,
He was one of my interns, by the way. He worked here at the studio.
really.
Yeah,
Okay, that's cool.
my son Aaron produced his record, one of his first records.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think Augie told me that because that sounds vaguely familiar to me.
Yeah.
But that night was incredible. I mean, and Andrews, I remember him being on his knees soloing on the guitar, and it was just like
Oh, we were
it's
doing
phenomenal.
it was crazy. I got some good pictures of that night. It was great.
New York really is like nothing else in terms of that kind of stuff. It's kind of
That's
you know, one off, just like you're just chilling in a bar, and then these incredible musicians are just like every single Monday night you can go and watch music for and you're not
right.
blowing $1,000 to see it.
Right. We're
And I
gonna
haven't.
go get that back again.
Let's hope for the absolute best. And I do want to mention earlier this year, Frosty Lawson passed
No.
away, and I just really want to mention that because he in the short amount of time that I got to know him, and I told you earlier I didn't get a whole lot of time to talk to him, but just being able to play with him was just such an incredible experience, and I feel like it would be a disservice of me to not bring it up in some sort.
Frosty's spirit and music will live on forever for me. He's a very, very close friend of mine, and I've not been able to wrap my head around that he's gone. I spoke at his eulogy, and I still am not admitting that he's not here. It's like I want to call him and say, "Hey, man, let's make some music."
Yeah.
He's very part of the studio, very part of my life playing.
Yeah, and I'm first of all, I just want to say my absolute condolences. I was so when we heard we were shocked,
Yeah,
and
all
so
of us. To the
and
lost family, our condolences. You're absolutely right. Thank you.
yeah, and so when it comes back, it's gonna be a different experience without him. But I think it will be it's not going to be like he's not there. Everyone's going to know that this is where he was, and this is the influence he had on those jams.
Right.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Here, I got something I was curious about. I mean, I have a bunch of things I'm curious about. That's why I've asked questions. But I saw I think it was on the Cove City website, that you are producing a solo record. And I wanted to ask about that a little bit. So can you tell me anything about the personnel on that record? Or is it still kind of secret?
No. The record is done. And it was done with Julio Fernandez from Spyro Gyra. You've seen Julio at the Jam maybe too, a guitar player. He co-produced it with me and did a lot of the writing with me. Joel Rosenblatt, also from special effects and from Spyro Gyra on drums. Mm-hmm. Don Harris, trumpet player from Tower of Power, dear old friend of mine. Gene Perez from Willie Colon's band on bass. Mm-hmm. Tom Schumann, keyboard player from Spyro Gyra. Chris Clark, keyboard player that you've seen at the Jam. Mm-hmm. Who have I forgotten? Freddie Walcott played on it. Ozzy Melendez from Mark Anthony's band, trombone, played on it. It was a great record. We had a lot of fun doing it.
When was it released? I must have totally, because I was reading stuff and I had only seen that it was in the works. I apologize for messing that up.
It's been released. I have a great cover of New York State of Mind on that. That's probably what just got released again. I got 1.9 million streams on that. It was crazy. I redid New York State of Mind for the pandemic. If you go to my name and look up New York State of Mind 2020 pandemic, you'll see that.
There's the YouTube video of that, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did see that. I didn't know that was part of that same record. Yeah. Well, I apologize for letting that slip through my research.
That's okay.
Well, Richie, I know you're a busy man. I don't want to have you stressing about what you got to do. You got your job to do.
Well, let's do this again. If because I've got to get moving downstairs. I'm upstairs in my office. The studio's downstairs.
Yeah.
But I'd love to play with you again too. Everybody knows that we've played together, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For people who may have just joined, I know Orange Bananas is in the chat now. Great friend of mine. Yeah, Richie and I have played at the Monday Night Jams. Some of the best experiences I've had playing in my entire life, and that's something I will appreciate forever. And I'm so thrilled for that to actually finally come back, whenever that may be. But Richie, go do your thing. Thank you, buddy. You got people waiting on you. I don't want to hold you back. So thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who listened and watched. There'll be clips from this on YouTube. The audio version will be on wherever you get your podcasts. If you are here live, thank you especially, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Wow.